Good morning. Made it to a Friday. Hope everybody is having a great start to their day. So happy to have you guys here for the next 3 hours. We're going to get you ready for game day. Couple of different game days. Obviously, Monday's going to be a little congested, so Mike Felder of Stadium is going to break down the college football national championship matchup between Georgia and TCU here in just about 20 minutes from now. We'll obviously talk Titans and Jaguars. Coach Mack, Titans Radio, 11:20 is when you can get a little bit of Mack talk to get your weekend started. Your phone calls, always welcome, 615-737-1045. Jump in if you like. Good morning, bud. How are we?
Fantastic.
Okay. Did you get any cookie cake?
I was alerted about the cookie cake.
But have not yet partaken?
I have not yet executed the consuming of the cookie cake.
Restraint by you. Free food. That's a rarity. What, do you want to diet? What happened?
No.
Foolishness. Yes, a very happy, well, it's tomorrow, but I guess we're not going to be able to do it tomorrow. Very happy birthday to our buddy, Ramon Foster.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
I do care. Now, I'll tell you why I do care, because both of us are on a diet. He is absolutely crushing it. And I don't know. I feel like Kayla, kind of a bad teammate, bringing the cookie cake in studio when my man's is looking like he's down damn near 40 pounds at this point. I feel like, birthday calories don't count on principle, but I don't know. Do they make like vegan cookie cakes or something, gluten-free cookie cakes perhaps?
I hope not.
Somewhere out there, probably in East Nashville.
But the difference between you and Ramon Foster is Ramon, I don't think, ate too much of the cookie cake. He is following his PhD diet, but he was very gracious, and he appreciated the gesture, while you, I think, would just gripe and moan about somebody kindly bringing you a cookie cake.
I'd say, get that thing the hell out of here. Traitor is what I would yell at her if she did that to me. But no, we're very happy that Ramon's having a good birthday, and always appreciate the energy that he brings. Meantime, the news yesterday, obviously coming out of the NFL, the positive progress of Damar Hamlin has seen him continue to improve. His breathing tube removed today. Neurologic function remains intact. He's been able to talk to his family, his caregivers at this point, and his teammates, which is just so huge. Sean McDermott is currently, it looks like, meeting with Bills media via Zoom right now. Did you watch that press conference with he and Josh Allen yesterday afternoon? You probably were on the air with Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah, I was on the air, but I caught bits and pieces. I saw Josh Allen, before he left, saying that T. Higgins also deserves some thoughts at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, so we hadn't really talked a lot about that. T. Higgins, which I've seen mostly support for T. Higgins in that moment, because nobody in their right mind could look at that play and say, oh, it's T. Higgins' fault, Bart Scott.
Oh, well. It's not lost on me that Bart and I have the same representation.
Which is ironic, because I feel like Bart Scott was kind of a hard-hitting type of player that built a career off of that type of stuff. So.
Bart, I'm sure, has made worse hits with worse intent.
Come on, man.
In his life.
You lit some people up in your day. Get out of here.
Respectfully. But as a result, the thing moves, for better or worse, to business at hand, and business at hand is the idea that Buffalo and Cincinnati now officially not resume. The league sent us all a memo at about 8:08 p.m. last night. The NFL announced that the Bills and Bengals will not be resumed, has been canceled, and we knew this was a very, very real, if not entirely likely, possibility. Goodell made a bit of a statement. Now, they mentioned the key factors in it. No effect on which clubs qualify for the postseason in terms of not playing the game. No club would qualify for the postseason, and no club will be eliminated based on the outcome of this game. But the playoffs are obviously affected. The AFC Championship game now will be played at a neutral site if the participating teams played an unequal number of games, and both could have been the number one seed and hosted the game had all AFC clubs played a full 17-game regular season. So if Buffalo and Kansas City both win, a Buffalo-Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site. If Buffalo and Kansas City lose, and Baltimore wins or ties, a Buffalo-Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site. And scenario number 3, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose. Cincy wins, a Buffalo or Cincinnati versus Chiefs championship game would be at a neutral site.
And Cincy are AFC North champs, right?
Yes. Now, what it goes on to say here, mentioning that, because obviously the division as of yesterday, until the league made this memo or made this official, was still in play for the Ravens. The Bengals had a 58% chance to hold on to it, according to the New York Times playoff predictor. But if the Ravens beat the Bengals this weekend, they will have defeated Cincinnati, a divisional opponent, twice, but will not be able to host a playoff game because Cincinnati will have a higher win percentage for a 16-game schedule than Baltimore will for a 17-game schedule. So they just kind of changed they tweaked the tiebreaker a little bit to accommodate for the Bengals having been just simply a party to what this thing is.
So can Baltimore be eliminated this weekend, or are they in?
Baltimore is in. Baltimore's been in for a couple of weeks now.
I mean, they have 10 wins.
Yes. Now, they have lost, I believe, 2 in a row, 3 in a row?
Yeah, I mean, Lamar hasn't played in
a month.
Yeah, and it was a 1 to 3 week injury. He hasn't practiced this week either.
There's some shady stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Robert, noted Ravens fan, the Red Flash, sent me a clip from a Baltimore sports talk radio station, and I can't remember the name of the host, but basically they were reporting that Lamar was not necessarily being cooperative in his rehabilitation process with the team. Now, that was since refuted by the organization and by Lamar's camp, saying that he has been present at every requested training session, essentially, with the Ravens at this point. But yeah, the Lamar thing kind of there's some weird stuff going on there, even if we're not sure what exactly the weirdness specifically is. So, point being, they will have a neutral. They're in all likelihood. Obviously, some teams like the Titans or the Jags, depending on who gets into the postseason from the AFC South. You could have teams like the Patriots, who are technically still right now in, or the Chargers kind of make a mess of this thing. But if, mostly the top seeds hold serve, it's entirely possible we have a neutral site AFC championship game. Would you go if it's in Nashville? Like, the two of you back there, would you go to this game if this was, maybe we would have the opportunity to do something around the game, so maybe we all end up there for work anyway. But I think it would be fascinating to cover a neutral site. It has to be the only one, in at least since the NFL merger. A neutral site AFC championship game if Nashville was selected as a host city, because it's entirely possible, Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati, that Nashville is better at this time of year for those kind of things.
And it is speculation on our part. No potential host cities have been named.
No,
right?
no.
But we just think about the location.
Yeah, I'm just talking out loud. Just theoretically, hypothetically, all of the qualifiers that you need, reckless speculation. I haven't talked to anybody about this, about Nashville specifically.
Yeah.
But if it just so happened to land in Nashville, which, by the way, I bet they would be actively jockeying for.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it's like hosting an NFL Music City Bowl. That's got a little kick to it. More than Iowa, Kentucky.
That had some kick to it.
Somebody writes on the YouTube chat, it would be the first AFC championship game played in Nashville. Well, that would be unfortunate.
I wonder if it needs to be in an AFC venue. Does that matter? Could it be in Jerry World? That would not shock me.
It does not go further as far as the detail. As we consider, this is the statement from Goodell. As we consider the football schedule, our principles have been to limit disruption across the league and minimize competitive inequities. I recognize that there is no perfect solution. The proposal we are asking the ownership to consider, however, addresses the most significant potential equitable issues created by the difficult but necessary decision to not play the game under these extraordinary circumstances. But nothing is to because I would imagine ownership would be jockeying for this. Jim Irsay would want to host an AFC championship game because Jim Irsay has not hosted a home playoff game since 2014.
Yeah, they'll have hosted everything but a home playoff game. National championship, combine, playoff
Super
game,
Bowl.
AFC champ. Yeah.
I mean, they and Indy's well equipped.
Super Bowl, yeah.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see how if it was specific to AFC, because I guess it would depend on what the venue schedule is otherwise, but it's not like an NFL stadium is going to have a concert slapped in the middle of the NFL postseason, regardless of whether the team's in or out. Like, those things are decided far, far in advance. So theoretically, they'd all be available.
So Buffalo is the 1 seed with a win, or are they the 1 seed regardless?
Buffalo is the 1 seed. Buffalo is the 1 seed regardless, based on the scenario that they have laid out. Because, well, if with a win or a tie.
Over the Patriots.
Yes.
Okay.
With a win or a tie.
So a Buffalo loss and a Chiefs win over the Raiders, the Chiefs would be the 1 seed.
Yes, that is the scenario too that is presented here according to the layout. So no, but the Bills are not like firmly entrenched. They are not solidified as the 1 seed at this point. They still need a victory or a tie over the New England Patriots, who also need to win to keep their position because things are getting complicated behind them at this point. So, a lot of different things that still have to come into place. And we obviously have about 2 months a month to figure this out at this point before we get to things like an AFC Championship game. So we'll continue to keep you updated with the latest. But that's the kind of stuff that the NFL is working through right now. And all as a result of, thankfully, positive progress on behalf of Damar Hamlin and his family. The latest news being the best possible news so far, that he's been able to communicate with his family, his teammates, and had his breathing tube removed. So we're going to talk Titans and Jags basically the rest of the day, but I do want to get into the national championship game between Georgia and TCU. Mike Felder of Stadium, he's going to break down the X's and O's and what he likes about this matchup coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Buck Rising here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. We'll get to your phone calls on the Titans and the Jags in just a moment. Meantime, I don't know if I need the funk, but I need a little Mike Felder in my life. The College Football National Championship game coming up on Monday. Monday projects to be a little messy for us, so we figure we better get the best X's and O's breakdown around right now. How we living, Mike?
I'm doing all right, Buck. How you doing, man? How was the holidays?
It was swell. I watched the local professional football team. I spent my Christmas Eve with them as they lost to the one-win Houston Texans. And then a Thursday night literally meaningless game for their playoff implications for their 6th straight loss against the Dallas Cowboys. So we're vibes are high, baby. We're living.
Okay, man. Hey, I'm just glad we're out of the holidays because I got my kid. My wife got my kid into preschool, which means she won't be here during the day, so I'm gonna get a little bit more work done, and I don't have a slate of activities.
Hey, you know what? That means that it's time to get back to the grind. Not like you ever stopped the grind, but the grind gets a little bit easier to do once you've got nothing but the tape in front of you. So, what surprised you more about the results of the 2 semifinals, Mike? The fact that Ohio State played the best game that I think I've seen them play, in 2 years, easily, or just generally whatever the hell Michigan TCU was?
I think what surprised me more was that Michigan they got out-muscled. And that's the part where, like, you can go back and you watch these, and remember, Kendrick Miller goes out. Kendrick Miller is a guy that ran for 1,400 yards. And he goes out, and then Amari DeMarcado steps in and is like, oh, don't worry. They're going to make mistakes, and we're going to completely squash them. And they did it, and it worked. And so Michigan, they have to go back to the drawing board. And obviously we're hearing rumors about Harbaugh to the NFL and what's going to happen next. So, I mean, they've been to the playoff twice, which is fantastic. They have not advanced past the semifinal. Not fantastic, especially in the 2 fashions that it happened. 1, to a team in Georgia that just absolutely demolished them, and then 2, to a TCU team that everyone, myself included, thought that they would be able to manhandle, but TCU jumped on them early. Obviously, the pick sixes. Maybe J.J. McCarthy is not your guy. This is going to be really interesting. And then to go to the other game, as you mentioned, Ohio State played a great football game. Ohio State was absolutely good enough to win that football game. And they had a couple of miscues, and I'm not even going to go to the kicker and the holder. I think they've gotten enough grief. I will go to Marvin Harrison with that drop in the back of the end zone. And then there was another play where we saw C.J. Stroud decide not to make a push. And I think Ryan Dave's got to question that play calling on the final drive because you should get closer than the 49 yards.
It was surprising from a variety of standpoints to see, as you mentioned, Michigan get out-muscled. Because we were in here talking about that game on the Friday previous, Mike. And, that was the biggest thing, that they don't necessarily have the horsepower to compete in the trenches. And then I watched them play on defense against the Michigan offense, and I dumbfounded is probably extreme, but that's not the outcome of all the outcomes that you would expect. That's not the thing that I thought that it was going to kind of overtake the game, but the thing that was absolutely necessary for TCU to go out there and win. But now Georgia is a different animal in this regard. Even if Ohio State got a piece of them in a way that we haven't seen really much in the last 2 seasons, what kind of stands out about what TCU will have to do offensively against this Georgia defense?
So there's a couple things. One, Georgia's a different team without Darnell Washington. He is essentially a 6th offensive lineman in the game for them. And it's a game changer, and truly, the way when they set up the Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington to the Broderick Jones, that trio on one side, they're a completely different team running the football than they were against Ohio State when Darnell Washington went out of the game. For TCU, what they're going to have to do, they got to duplicate what they did against Michigan and then do it better. And I'm glad you mentioned TCU's defense because that 3-3-5. And what they were able to do with that, getting smaller linebackers like D. Winters, getting them involved in the game, and they made a mistake early. And Donovan Edwards went for a long game, and then after that, they were like, all we have to do, and I said it pre-game, I said, you got to aim small, miss small. And what TCU did was realize, all I have to do is my job. Don't try to do somebody else's job. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to make a play. The plays will come to us. And they had 13 tackles for loss against what, and I talked to Mike Golick Jr. the Friday before the game. He said Michigan's got the best offensive line in the country. Tell you what, 13 tackles for loss, you did something wrong.
Yeah. At In the Bleachers is where you can follow our main man, Mike Felder of Stadium. You can also catch him on Bleacher Report. He's doing exceptional draft breakdowns as well throughout the course of this. Always appreciate. Are you doing those things live, by the way?
Yes.
The degree of difficulty on that, and I know you are somebody who I would trust to take those things seriously, because I know how much you value the analysis that you put in, other than some kind of BS list that is just out there for clicks. Like the degree of difficulty on that, Mike. That's pretty, because you've been doing that for like a couple of months now.
Yeah, man. Listen. I've got 3 screens that I'm operating as I try to talk to. Listen. I'm just talking to myself. No callers. We got folks in the chat. No callers. No guests. It's just me by myself, and I'm running through the list while trying to get to the chat. And it's a good shell game.
So as we look at what Georgia was able to do, I guess what stood out about the way that Georgia was able to get back in that game? You mentioned a couple of critical errors by Ohio State, but offensively, what stood out to you?
Georgia was able to change who they were, and this is a game that I guess they came into this game thinking, we'll be able to just feel it out, which I don't think that bodes well for TCU. Because I think Georgia's going to come out in this game, the national championship game, and they're like, you know what? Let's score 50 points. Let's make them stop us. But they came out against Ohio State thinking, we'll stop them, and then we'll be okay, and we can win this game, 27-17 or whatever it is. And they're like, oh, no, we got to score 40s. And they switched up their style. I also will say this. I don't know if you know anything, because you're a little bit deeper in SEC country than I am, but is Jalen Carter healthy? What's going on with him? Because he's supposed to be a top 4, top 5 pick, and he was completely absent from the game. So I think for Georgia offensively, we got to find out the status of Darnell Washington, because they're a different team without him. Although I do love what they did with Kenny McIntosh. That was really fun to watch them flex him out and then get him the ball in the passing game. And then defensively from Georgia, we got to find out what's going on with Jalen Carter. And is he okay? Was it just the time off? Did he have too much of mom's cooking? What's going on? Because he was absent from that game.
Well, that's the crazy part. This is an All-American player. This is one of the the standard stud Georgia defensive tackles. This man played 52 snaps, and he had 1 tackle. He had 1 tackle. And I watched that game back, Mike, earlier this week, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But I didn't come away from that thinking that Ohio State did anything necessarily to outright neutralize him.
No, I don't. I 100% agree with you, and I truly am he was huffing and puffing and getting out of the game way more than I'd seen him get out of the game in other games. So I don't know what. I hope he's healthy. I hope he's okay, and we'll see what happens. But the big thing for me is he has to be a factor against TCU, because what I want to see, Buck, is I want to see them use him to pro. I want to see them use him. This is a guy that can play from 4-eye all the way to a 0. Find your spot. Pick the guy that's the weakness and then consistently attack him until TCU has to do something different. That's what they have to do, because Michigan didn't do that, obviously. TCU, they want to push Michigan around. I mean, they had a great running game against Michigan.
How much does Max Duggan is not I don't consider him overtly mobile, but I look at him as having, generally he uses his mobility a bit more than C.J. Stroud, who almost seems unwilling at times, even though it can make a difference for Ohio State. How much of an advantage is that for Max Duggan and TCU against this Georgia defense?
Takes the defender out of it. And we did see C.J. Stroud run. He ran to throw, and he also ran to run.
Right.
And that was huge, because we knew that had to be a factor in this football game. and he finally did it. And you're right, he's been reluctant to do it all year, and I understand why. Listen, he's a quarterback with color. He doesn't want to be labeled as a runner. He wants to be viewed as a thrower, and there's a couple throws where he was like clearly going through progressions and doing that, but he also was able to move out of the pocket. Now, to get to Duggan is, I think he's, here's the thing, and I hate to say this. He's more athletic than people think he is. I hate to say it that way because it sounds like white wide receiver talk, right? Like I don't want to say it that way, but like
you know what part of the country I'm in. Like that's already a part of the lexicon anyway. Bud.
Mike, would you say he has deceptive speed?
Yeah, see, exactly right. But the thing, you saw that last drive against Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. He powered them all the way down to the goal line so that they could tie that ball game up, and I think that was really important. So he is a factor in the run game. He's also someone, and more importantly, this is the thing I think about. This is what I think about it, Buck, is if Jordan's got 6 guys up in the box, 5 guys back protecting against the pass, and Duggan does do whether it's a fake or it's a give, there's a guy that can't actually rush the passer or a guy that has to come down into the box, which either creates more time for him in play action or it creates space behind. And I think that's what he does because he is willing to run. He's not afraid of it. He will do it. I mean, this is a guy, I think his performance in that Big 12 championship game speaks for itself in terms of someone who all he wants to do is win like DJ Khaled.
Mike, when it comes to cookie cake, the ratio between icing and cooking as a food connoisseur, where do you stand?
Less icing, more cookie.
Thank you.
Always. Yeah. Why is this even a question that's being posed back there? What are you two doing back
it's nothing
there?
controversial. We're not having an argument. I was just curious. I'm eating Ramon Foster's cookie cake, and I'm scraping the icing off to have minimal icing, just a light coating around the corners, other than a heaping pile of icing, which I can't imagine enjoying on a cookie cake.
Does the cookie cake require ice cream, though, Mike? Like, do you require ice cream to be able to eat cookie cake? Because I feel like I'm one of those people.
I don't need ice cream. I am, full disclosure, lactose intolerant.
Oh.
I save all my tummy hurts. I save that for pizza. And I will say this: I like just gentle piping. And you know what? If you can throw in a little fudge in there somewhere, I'll take that.
Okay. See, this is why this is a man of class and sophistication.
Yes,
he's not back there scraping the icing. He's bringing a light fudge drizzle to the cookie cake party. All right, Mike Felder
There we go.
at In the Bleachers is where you can follow him. Bleacher Report for his live NFL draft breakdowns, mock draft breakdowns. They are exceptional, as is all the other work that he does. Buddy, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. I'm sure we'll catch up at some point after the game.
Yeah, sounds good, man. You guys take it easy and listen, we're going into the weekend. Have a good weekend.
I'm going to Jacksonville, baby. There's only one kind of weekend one can have in Jacksonville. Say a prayer.
Have a good one.
That's our guy, Mike Felder. Love to see it. 615-737-1045. All right, so was there a raging cookie cake debate going on in the back room?
No, Robert is very much on the same page. Too much icing is no good.
I feel like if you are somebody who wants more icing, you're either en route for the diabetes commercials, or
you're a child. If you like icing, you are a child.
Literal child.
No. Wait, you've gone to an extreme.
When I get fuck. Have you met me?
Yeah, more and more every day, bud. You don't have to say that you are a child if you like icing, but if you favor the icing over the cookie cake, yes, then the assessment is that you are somebody who is displaying a great amount of immaturity.
If you are using the cookie cake as a vessel for icing.
Bingo.
Okay.
Can't have that.
I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we're arguing with nobody.
I'm anti-icing even on cupcakes. When cupcakes come out, knock that off and I'll eat just a little ball of dough.
Oh, and a little bit of icing.
If I had to describe Robert as anything, it would be a little ball of dough.
I'd rather have that as my nickname than Red Flash.
Back to the shadows. 615-737-1045. Yeah, we'll obviously talk more about the championship game on Monday, but we did. What the hell?
What?
What is that?
Did you hear something?
Didn't you? Am I having a stroke?
I don't know. I have no explanation for what you're talking about.
That was odd. That's probably going to make a reappearance at some point at 11:20, one would imagine. So from obviously Monday, as I was saying, the national championship game, it's going to be discussed, but Monday is going to be our first opportunity to talk about whatever happens between the Titans and the Jags, and we wanted to make sure that we got in the good analysis well in advance beyond whatever discussion we'll have Monday before the game. So now to the Titans and Jags. I think that, by the way, we are now getting tweets. I'm getting tweets. Being anti-icing explains a lot about you guys. What does that even mean? No, it just explains more about you, Jacob Scott.
It exposes you.
You have shown yourself, sir. Maybe I shouldn't use people's full names on the radio. I don't want to expose them for their obvious ugly truths about their icing preferences.
Wrecked in the YouTube chat says, I hate icing. I can't stand really sweet stuff like that.
We will resume this. Put it on the poll in some form or fashion. I trust you. Well, I don't trust you to devise an intelligent poll, but, use your judgment.
What is the appropriate icing to cookie ratio on a cookie cake?
That is the correct poll. At Buck Rising is where you vote on them. So, I don't know if the Titans will be celebrating with cookie cake after a win over the Jacksonville Jags tomorrow or not. You like that?
That would be funny.
It's Derek's birthday.
It was his birthday.
Somebody asked him at the press conference, "You doing anything special for your birthday, bud?" He just goes, "No." I think that there are a lot of reasons to be more optimistic about this game than any game that this team has played basically since the first week of bleeping November. Now, that does not necessarily mean that I feel good about their chances going into Jacksonville. I don't feel good about them going up against a team that, since these two franchises last met, is averaging 31.5 points a game. Don't feel good about a Titans team that scored 14 or less in the last 3 weeks going against a team like that. But I do recognize that they have as many advantages right now as they have had at any point since the Green Bay Packers win. And that whatever benefit of doubt remains about their ability to put together a game plan to put their players in position to succeed and, the most important thing for them, a 4-man pass rush, I think that's the thing that gives you the greatest source of optimism if you're looking for reasons why this team should be able to pull it off. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Deontay is it says in Nashville, but on the way to Jacksonville. Deontay, where are you logistically?
Where are we right now, y'all?
Okay.
We're in Atlanta right now. We're passing Atlanta. How you doing today, man?
Man, we're living.
Living. I love to hear it, man. First thing I want to say is, man, I want to give my respect out to Damar Hamlin, man. That was just a tragedy, man. I'm glad he's recovering. Yeah, man, we got to tighten up. We're on our way, Let me ask you a question, Buck.
Yeah.
What's the status on Treylon Burks? What do you think he's going to do?
Well, I appreciate the question because that had been in question prior to Mike Vrabel speaking yesterday and, still listed as questionable. Deontay and the rest of the crew in the car, safe travels down to Jacksonville. I'm heading down today. Lucas, you are flying tomorrow before the game. Very good. So it sounds like Treylon Burks is more likely to be available than not, though he is still listed on the injury report yesterday, an official designation for the game as questionable. The groin injury that popped up on Wednesday that put him on the injury report for the first time this week with a different injury than he's been dealing with. Mike Vrabel said they were playing it safe on Thursday, the team's last day of on-field work, and it does feel like there is a greater sense of optimism than the initial concerns, right? You see a player pop up midweek on the injury report, especially that guy, given the amount of time that he's already missed with two different circumstances, unfortunately for him. And, you get a little shaky because you know how important he is to what you're trying to do offensively and how much more he can create with a quarterback that seems comfortable getting him the ball in Josh Dobbs. And as you kind of look at the different things, like, I don't know, he's got a groin situation. I don't know how effective, if he plays, that's going to make him, how much that's going to hinder him. I don't know the severity of the groin problem. But I know that they need him, and I struggle with the idea of, okay, well, it's the last game of the regular season, because I saw some comments about that last night. I was talking about it on primetime. And saw some comments to the effect of, well, this is, it's about toughness now. He needs to be out there. He's already missed too much time. And then, I go look at the people that are making those comments, and they're the same people that are telling me that the Titans should tank for a draft pick, that are demanding the toughness of the rookie wide receiver who's kind of going through it this season. So, wherever he's at physically, we will see what the official designation on him. I mean, the official designation for now is questionable. But obviously, we'll find out an hour and a half before kickoff tomorrow, and we'll be able to talk about it on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff with Blaine Bishop, Mickey Ryan here in the studio, and then I'll be in Jacksonville with them as we get our pregame coverage started. Phil in Gallatin is next. Good morning, Phil. Hey, Phil. It sounds like he's being abducted. Like the cell phone background.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling it.
Got a break. Vibes are high on this Friday. You wouldn't know that the local professional football team's lost 6 in a row and is heading into a do-or-die situation in scenic Jacksonville tomorrow. But it does feel like there's been good energy around the facility this week. There's good energy around the facility the week after they fired John Robinson and lost to the Texans. There's been good energy around the facility at several different points in the last month and a half or so. So it doesn't guarantee anything, but it is an intriguing matchup that we will get to witness tomorrow evening. Titans radio coverage beginning at 3 p.m. And we will, of course, have the kickoff at 7:15 p.m. 4 p.m., Lucas says in my ear for the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Meanwhile, SEC stat of the day, please. Oh, the computer's buffering.
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
The SEC stat of the day is 2. That is where Georgia sits in the 24/7 Sports Talent Composite, which, of course, compiles all of the talent on a roster given what they were rated coming out of high school and ranks them accordingly. Georgia, number 2 in the nation. Buck, where do you think TCU stands in the talent composite for the 2022 season?
Question. If they were picked 7th to finish in their conference,
Went 5-7 last season.
I would, and this is Sonny Dykes' first year at the helm of this thing, right?
First year.
I would say that they have to be 30th.
32nd.
32nd.
You are very close.
Okay.
TCU has not had a recruiting class land inside the top 20 within the last 5 years. Georgia has not had a recruiting class land outside of the top 5 in the last 5 years. In fact, the 2 highest rated prospects in TCU recruiting history have come within the last 5 years, and neither of them are on this football team. Justin Rogers, the 4-star quarterback, is now at UNLV, and Zach Evans, the former 5-star running back, the highest-rated commit in TCU history, of course, spent the season with Ole Miss, and he is now headed to the NFL draft. He also transferred out. So TCU has continued to make us question everything that we think we know about what it takes to get to and potentially win the national championship game.
Well, and so let me ask you some follow-ups, and you may not necessarily have the answers to these questions, but I do think it matters for like what you've just said, questioning everything we know about what it takes to get to the national championship game. What is their so you mentioned that they had talent transfer out. What was their transfer situation like coming into this season?
When you go down the list, most of the biggest playmakers that have gotten TCU to this point were recruited by Gary Patterson.
Okay.
Max Duggan was a 4-star prospect brought in by Gary Patterson at quarterback. Quentin Johnson, who is shooting up NFL draft boards, was a 4-star wide receiver prospect brought in by Gary Patterson. So TCU has had to tweak some things. Obviously, they have brought guys in via transfer. Sonny Dykes has done a really nice job of kind of drawing a radius around the area of Fort Worth and finding guys that are from the area that left to go somewhere and want to return home. That's something I think a lot of programs are going to start to take advantage of. Okay, who is from here that left, was highly rated, committed to a bigger program? It's not really working out for them. They want to come back and be close to mom and dad. South Alabama had great success with that this past season in the Mobile area, a talent-rich area in South Alabama where the Jaguars had 10 wins this season down there. So I think that is going to be a common strategy moving forward. But TCU is showing us that you don't necessarily have to be recruiting with the Alabamas and the Georgias to get to this point. Most of the time, you do. That is the clearest path towards winning a championship in college football. But in this era that we're in, you're seeing that tweaking rosters, that bringing guys in the right spots, often having to re-recruit your own guys. Sonny Dykes has talked about going to Quentin Johnson's house this past offseason, sitting down with he and his family and convincing him to return to TCU.
Right.
And he's played a massive role for that football team this season. But last season it was Cincinnati as a group of 5 team getting into the playoff. This season it's TCU as a team that went 5-7 a year ago. first-year head coach, picked to finish 7th in the Big 12, getting into the playoff, and then beating Michigan, moving to the national championship game, and they didn't even win their conference. They got beat by Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game.
But Cincinnati had, to me, it seems, and I don't know what they were. I don't know enough about recruiting to know what guys like Sauce Gardner were ranked coming in, and what Desmond Ridder was coming in, and Alec Pierce, right, who I really like for the Indianapolis Colts. They had clear and obvious, not just NFL talent, but top tier NFL talent at their disposal in ways that TCU, as you mentioned, they're starting to get more looks, but not like clear and obvious players at the next level. That would be viewed as such by a consensus. Did you happen to mention where they rank in their 2023 recruiting class?
TCU?
Yes,
I did not,
because I've got them here at 18th.
I was
in the
composite. Say they're in the top 20, which would be their best class in several years.
Okay, so I do think it's a well-made point though, because it does. I mean, is it now something that can be considered more a norm because there is now precedent for something like this? We talked about, as Lucas mentioned, Group of 5, Cincinnati getting in last year for the first time. Now TCU is in the mix officially and playing for a national title for the first time since the 1930s, I think was the stat that we read earlier.
Yeah, 38
in the week against Carnegie Tech.
Yes, now Carnegie Mellon.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes,
it's I'd literally never seen Carnegie Tech in my life. But I do think that it is an interesting case study, and will determine a lot of the conversations for future college football playoff contender considerations. Because we thought Utah might be able to mess with preseason, right? Now that we're officially at the end of the college football season, we can go back and assess the things that we thought we knew at the time and how things played out, and obviously injuries matter and all this too. But Utah, by the way, Penn State, Utah, lowest rated Rose Bowl ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I caught the second half, but it was already a blowout.
It wasn't a great game.
By the time I got around to it.
Yeah, Cam Rising gets hurt, and
my
then
cousin.
Penn State runs away with it.
Long story short, I think TCU is going to be looked at as a case study for different programs who are in the same realm. Now, TCU also has money. TCU has NIL money that is real. How much more and I don't know what their mobilization system is for the NIL, right? Because we talked about this with Josh Pate I guess that was last week. Josh came in studio and had mentioned something about Ryan Day, him, and I don't believe Pate just says things to say things without having reasonable background on it. He was saying that he doesn't believe Ryan Day is very happy with how Ohio State has kind of literally fumbled the bag NIL-wise, and how they're costing themselves critical opportunities where a university like Tennessee with what's the name of the collective?
Oh, Aspire Sports.
Aspire Sports. Aspire Sports is one of the most dominant entities in the NIL landscape right now. Not just in the SEC or whatever, but nationwide. They have made legitimate strides for other universities to try and formulate or copy their formula and try and implement it. I don't know what TCU's NIL mobilization situation looks like, but I do think all of those things matter. And the tide, what's the lame, not the cliche about rising tide lifts all ships, right? Obviously, a national championship appearance, a college football playoff appearance, it's only going to help them in all elements of this.
Well, but here's the thing. TCU, it is incredible that they've gotten to this point. They beat a Michigan team that, on paper is far more talented than TCU when you look at recruiting rankings and all of those things. However, Michigan, the fact that they've been able to accomplish what they have in the last couple of years, boat racing Ohio State back-to-back seasons, winning the Big Ten, getting to the playoff, that's impressive in and of itself, given the way Harbaugh is recruited at Michigan, which has been good, top 15, top 10 classes consistently, but never to the level of an Alabama, a Georgia, or an Ohio State. So TCU matched up better talent-wise with Michigan, certainly than they do against Georgia. Really, nobody matches up well talent-wise against Georgia other than the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world. Michigan shot itself in the foot several times in that game, not being able to capitalize inside the 5-yard line. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. TCU are massive underdogs in this game, 12.5-point underdogs.
Don't laugh at
against
that
the Georgia
back there.
Bulldogs. What?
That's not.
Did I say? I got frog in my throat. TCU 12.5-point underdogs to Georgia. It has come down. It was around 15, which when it was at that point was the biggest spread in national championship game history. So I am fascinated to see how this goes because I tend to think Georgia's going to be able to do whatever they want against TCU, running the football, being able to take advantage of some pressure packages that TCU is going to send. Georgia has better players. I cannot wait to see how these teams match up and how TCU is going to attempt to go toe-to-toe with Georgia the way they did with Michigan physically.
You got any more frog jokes? Frog you.
It is 10:59. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The season is on the line as the Tennessee Titans head to Jacksonville on Saturday for a winner-take-all AFC South battle. Mike Vrabel only ruled out cornerback Devontae Harris for the matchup, said wide receiver Traylon Burks should be okay to go despite not practicing yesterday. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 4 p.m. Titans countdown is at 6 and kickoff between Titans and Jaguars at 7:15 with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. More great news on Bill safety Damar Hamlin. Per Ian Rappaport this morning, Hamlin addressed his team via FaceTime as the breathing tube is out and he is talking to teammates and family. The Preds continue to score at a high rate last night, a 5-3 win at the Carolina Hurricanes. UC Saros, a franchise record 64 saves. The Preds head to Washington to face the Capitals tonight, a 6 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down on this Friday. Welcome in. Welcome back to 104.5 The Zone. If you've been kicking it with us so far, we are very pleased to have you here. Robert, Lucas, myself, we're with you till 1 o'clock. Jump in if you want. Coach Mack will be here very soon. 20 minutes to be exact. 615-737-1045. In the meantime, is how you get your phone calls in. As we look ahead to Jacksonville and the Titans and the Jags later tomorrow night, the Josh Dobbs situation obviously carries a lot of intrigue. And the way that he has handled the circumstance since he arrived here, the way that he came in on Thursday Night Football and competed at honestly as high a level as could be humanly expected, despite the outcome being the same in terms of a loss, how he's kind of approached this in his first real meaningful opportunity in 6 years as an NFL pro has been it's been fun to watch and to follow along for as, short a time as it's been, right? And I thought it was interesting. I was listening to him. I was listening to his media availability. I guess that would have been Tuesday of this week when he spoke to assembled Titans media at his locker. And he's been asked a lot of questions about getting into a leadership role. Now, for context, Malik Willis was asked the same line of questioning, essentially. Like, what's it? I mean, Mike Vrabel was asked the same kind of thing about Malik Willis, and as was Todd Downing as the offensive coordinator. The players were asked about, the transition in quote-unquote leadership from a new quarterback after Tannehill went down and Malik got his next start. So everybody handles these kind of things differently. And when I say these kind of things, I mean just generally conversing to fans through media. You've got Tannehill, who's, been around long enough to know that you don't ever say anything interesting ever, because if you do, all of a sudden it's Mentorgate and you're carrying SportsCenter for a week. You've got Malik, who is not media savvy enough yet to protect himself from having his quotes taken out of context. What I mean by that is after the Texans loss, his response was, I'm just happy to be here, win or lose. And I understood what he meant, like blessed to be here, win or lose. And I understand the mindset, I understand the mentality, but obviously, it's kind of a read the room situation, and he's a rookie. He'll learn. Then there's Dobbs, who I don't know much about covering college football. I've never covered a college football program in my life, just the NFL on like a day in, day out basis. But I know that college media availability is much less than the exposure the NFL players have. There's no such thing as open locker room in the college football ranks, right? Like Josh Heupel's not opening up the locker room for Knoxville media to patrol around 3 days a week for 45 minutes a day. It's not how it works. So like Dobbs when he talks about this stuff, seems more open, more willing to kind of let people inside what the process has been like for him. So he gets these leadership questions, and I want you to hear from him because the way that he does it, it's not like, I don't want to call it a clapback, but the way that he very quickly stops any kind of like lack of leadership discussion from the questions that he's being asked, I thought was the most interesting thing to come out of his availability this week.
Gain traction as a leader at the leadership position in such short order?
Just be yourself. You know, most of these guys have been in the NFL for a while, so they know authenticity when they see it. So you just be yourself, right? How you prepare, how you approach each day, each meeting, each walkthrough, each practice, and then, you know, when the ball's in hand, you have to go out and deliver. That's what everyone's looking for. That's what I'm looking for out of myself. That's what the coaches are looking for out of each player in here. So, you just do that, trusting your preparation, and just go play ball and let everything else fall where it may.
How has that process been for you, just as far as going from a guy that didn't know half of their names to actually being a leader in this locker room?
It's been good. It's been fun. You know, I've embraced it. I just take life one day at a time. So I think if you do that, you maximize each event in front of you, right? So maximize the walkthrough, then maximize the team meeting, then maximize the QB meeting, and just go from there. Then that's when you see the best results. So I just take things one day at a time, and I've embraced the role. I'm excited about it.
What's the challenge, though, preparing for something that you've never been a part of or experienced before?
Well, I've been on playoff teams, so I wouldn't say...
As a leader, though?
I mean, you're always a leader at the quarterback position, so I wouldn't say it's any different, right? Whether you're the starting quarterback or you're the two, there's just so much pressure, right? Because when you're the backup, now it's like, hey, you have to really emulate the offense that we're seeing perfectly because we need to see as many good reps as we can before the game comes. So at the quarterback position, the pressure's already there, always there. It's always on your shoulder. You're always a leader. You're always viewed in the leadership role. So for me, I just be myself, take it one day at a time.
So, like, he's right there with him the whole time. Well, you know, you've never been in this situation before. Well, I've been on playoff teams before. What do you mean? Well, but in a leadership role. Well, I'm a quarterback. It's literally my job to be a leader at all times in some form or fashion just because I'm not physically out there on the field. He gave an answer, Lucas, and I don't know if you caught this. I mean, do you guys carry the press conferences on Titans radio after the fact?
Bits and pieces.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they take clips or they run like chunks?
We'll dip in and out.
Okay. That makes sense.
Depending on which players are up there.
But I thought he gave an interesting answer about like finally getting the opportunity and kind of talking through that with him immediately in the post game. And he said something to the effect of, "Yeah, I've been basically studying for 6 years, and then when we get to the part where you take the test, I don't get to take the test. I just have to go back to studying every week."
Yeah, we were carrying that. Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting response because he's been preparing for this moment literally his entire football playing life. So this is not new, and it's not new for Malik. It's just the circumstances that they're in now require that it be more front-facing, that it's more evident to everybody on the outside as opposed to people working internally with them on teams. So I think that I'm fascinated by the Josh Dobbs. Just kind of, can I call it an experiment? Because I don't know where it goes beyond Thursday Night Football and tomorrow in Jacksonville. I have no idea what the next phase of Josh Dobbs' career is. I don't know if it continues here. I don't know if it continues elsewhere. I don't know if he gets another chance, depending on how he plays.
It's hard to imagine he has not already earned himself another job somewhere next season. If he's been able to find landing spots for the last 5-6 years with 17 career pass attempts, you would imagine that coming in and lighting a bit of a spark under this offense, regardless of how things shake out this weekend, would land him a job either here or somewhere else next season.
I've definitely seen worse backup quarterbacks play football this year. In fact, the one on the roster.
You will see them on Sunday. Miami and New York is a Joe Flacco versus Skylar Thompson matchup on Sunday.
Oh, my God.
Teddy Bridgewater's hurt.
No.
Yeah, he hurt a finger on his throwing hand.
Oh, my God, when he got the soul stiff-armed out of him on the interception?
I don't know if it was that play. But
did he throw an interception or was it a fumble? I can't recall.
I don't know. I don't know which play it was. But Skylar Thompson is the starter. Joe Flacco is the starter. Zach Wilson is his backup.
Football hell.
I saw it in The Athletic had this. There's a feature on it. I can't remember who wrote it. I hadn't read it yet, but I just saw the number. The year of 66 quarterbacks in the NFL.
66 this season? Well, that's the crazy part. That's why they have to reevaluate things and this is a different conversation for another day, perhaps the offseason.
Well, the Titans have, contributed 3 of those.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about it, like San Francisco's been through what? Jimmy, Trey Lance, and now Brock Purdy. You have situations like Baltimore and Miami who have thrown a couple of different guys out there because Tua, I mean, there has to be a conversation at some point about Tua Tagovailoa if just physically he is cut out for football with how often he gets hurt in different ways. And now that it's like recurrence of concussions and he's clearly a different player out there, I mean, who wouldn't be?
I mean, the Patriots have started multiple quarterbacks this season.
Oh, that's right. Who was the Bailey
Bailey
Zappi?
Zappi, Western Kentucky legend.
That's right, baby.
But
he had a moment.
Josh Allen missed some games, right? Earlier, because he had the ulnar nerve thing. Did he miss games with that?
I think he missed a game. You might check his Pro Football Reference.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Bears have certainly started multiple players.
Sure, we don't have to go through the list, but point being, like, that's why I think they need to either make the roughing the passer rule reviewable or like ease up on some of these rules that help the quarterback's health, because it's not like the sport is deeply unhealthy anyway, as we've just all spent a week discussing. So like all these different things that you've done to encourage, the quarterback staying on the field, maybe it's just a fluke year. I don't know. But 66 different quarterbacks having started NFL games this year is disgusting.
At some point next week, I want to go down and see how many teams in the NFL this season have started 3 quarterbacks.
Like what do I do with the Texans that came out here with a dual quarterback situation? Like that doesn't count, right? It's whoever got the start.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Driscoll has started.
Has he started a game?
Yeah, because they benched Davis Mills.
Yeah, but for Kyle Allen.
For Kyle Allen, right. Well, but either way, okay. So I don't know if Jeff Driscoll has actually started a game.
I don't think Driscoll started
But there's a possibility that 3 out of the 4 teams in the AFC South have at one point or another, if Driscoll had started, would have started or played substantially 3 quarterbacks this season.
God bless.
The Jags, the only outlier.
615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation.
Can you tell me what happened the last time Joshua Dobbs played a game in Jacksonville, Florida?
Oh, it was as a Tennessee Volunteer, and who would he have beaten? It would have been a bowl game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know he had a big moment, but I can't remember the circumstances exactly.
It was the Gator Bowl against Iowa, 2015.
That's right.
45-28 was the final for Tennessee to finish 7-6. Dobbs went 16 of 21 for 129 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But Tennessee ran the ball for 283 yards and 4 touchdowns, of which he had 76 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Would that have been Hurd or Kamara?
Hurd. Kamara arrived the following season.
That's right. So Josh Dobbs, experienced at playing at mighty TIAA Bank Field.
That was the game where the dumbest play from a special teamer I have ever seen in my football life happened, where an Iowa return man caught the ball on a kickoff on the sideline. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And he was towing the sideline and kind of off balance, and as he was falling out of bounds around the 10, he just threw the football back, just threw it onto the field. Like I don't know what he was trying to do or what he thought that would accomplish.
He thought he was Roger McCreary. He thought somebody was behind him. He's like, hey, let's lob this up, baby. We're going to be LeBron and D. Wade.
He just threw the ball.
You feel so badly for moments like that because that's going to live forever in college football history and in the minds of people who witnessed that nonsense and, Sports Center not top 10 and things of that nature.
Yeah, like
USC.
USC.
Do they not do the not top 10 anymore? I feel like I haven't seen a not top 10 in so long.
I don't know the last time I watched Sports Center, so I'm not sure.
What's that? I mean, I watch a lot of Sports Center, but I'm only here for 3 hours a day. Either way. Let's go to Phil in Gallatin up next. Hey, Phil.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Buck. Sorry about my cheap phone service earlier. You heard all the background stuff going on. I really got to push Metro T-Mobile to the side there. They're just not getting it done for me.
No free ads.
So, hey, I am Mr. Confident today, Buck. I've come a long way, and I hope you've seen my growth because you know that I used to call in asking you to lower your expectations, but I feel like Dobbs has a good shot here with, some of the players coming back healthy. I'm really thinking that, man, as long as they can control, the time of possession and keep Henry active and no fumbles, no turnovers, I feel like we got a shot. I also want to tell you, Buck, thank you for bringing up vegan topic earlier because I think I'm going to try vegan beer. I don't know if you've ever tried that before, but I think I'm going to go that way to try to cut back on some of these calories. You have a blessed day. Thank you, Buck.
Thank you for the call, Phil. Good. Look at him. New year, new Phil. We love to see it. Normally, he's calling in at 11 a.m. in the morning talking about Miller Lite.
Is beer not vegan? Am I dumb? Is beer not made out of like wheat and barley?
I mean, I don't know any. I'm not a beer drinker, but I would assume that it would qualify. Like, is it vegan versus vegetarian? Like, is there a difference there? Does beer do beverages even count? Like, I don't think of drinks as having meat in them.
Okay,
right?
well, we're
not all beverages.
We're the suckers in this. The Phil's making a joke. Yes, beer is technically vegan.
Is he though?
Barley, water.
Maybe does he mean non-alcoholic beer?
No. I think Phil's just making a joke. Water, barley or wheat, yeast, and hops. These are all vegan ingredients.
I don't know what any. I mean, I know what wheat is. The rest of those things, I don't know. Anyway, 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is going to break down the X's and O's of Titans Jags coming up next. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. That's who we get to talk to at 11:20 each and every Friday on this show. Of course, you can hear Coach Mack across 104.5 The Zone, the official Titans podcast, the Titans Amy and Coach Mack podcast, all of it made possible by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Like an extra set of pads, they've been protecting Tennesseans for 75 years. Farm Bureau Health Plans will get you right. What's happening, Mack? Happy Friday, brother.
Hey, Buck, same to you. Just getting all the prep wrapped up, getting ready to get on the plane and go to Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. When do you guys fly today?
I think around 2 o'clock.
Okay, right on. Well, safe travels, and we'll see you down there shortly. This game, Mac, obviously the importance of it, there gets a lot of discussion externally around guys, the increased importance of winning a game, the heightened stakes that this game brings. But obviously, like, I think that to try and do anything more than focus on what is in front of them right now, to try and bring in other factors from other games and try to apply them to the analysis of this one, it's just about them executing this week, tomorrow against the Jags in this spot, correct?
No, it's 100% true, Buck. And I mean, this is the game. This is a playoff game because if you win, you advance. If you don't, you go home. And that's the genesis of the playoff games in the National Football League. So that's what this is. This is a playoff game, regardless of what has happened, to either franchise up to this point. You've reached a point in the season. The Titans got enough win equity early in the season, regardless of what has happened in the last 6 weeks, that they're able to play here for the division championship and a chance to host a playoff game. And that's what this game is about. And so that's what you have to do. And so saying that everything is focused on this game, the one thing that you can draw from, I think you do look back at the previous meeting, and because you've got personnel matchups that you want to look at and that you want to improve on, or you want to change up a little, or you want to expand on. That's what you look back to. Anything else really doesn't matter. I mean, because regardless of the non-health that the Titans have had to this point and the extreme good health that the Jaguars have had to this point, they're both reached the same point in the last regular season game, is they're playing to win a division and host a playoff game.
So the matchups specifically, because Jacksonville offensively was able to get some advantageous stuff done against the Titans defense, but I mean, obviously we know the turnovers were the most damning thing for the Titans, Mac. We talked about that after that game. They gave the Jags extra possessions and obviously, cost themselves precious possessions that they already don't get a ton of anyway, and the lack of pressure that they were able to get on Trevor Lawrence specifically in that game obviously played a role. But the way that they were able to create matchup advantages, specifically with Evan Ingram, has been a talking point all week long. How big a problem was he for the Titans the last time they played?
Well, 11 catches, that's a big problem, and so you've got to be able to I think what you have to be able to do with him, and, if you're going to match man, well, you got to decide who you're going to match him with. And then the other thing that happens when you really want to start digging in, and I know you do, you dig in on teams that the Titans play, 25% of their throws are 6 yards or less. The ball is coming out from Trevor Lawrence as fast as anybody in the league. But over half of their yardage comes from after the catch.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? They're going to get the ball out quick. You got to get your hands up front. If you're rushing, you got to get your hands up to be able to match hands. And the other thing you have to do is spot tackle. They made yards last time with Ingram, short catches, long gains. So you've got to be able to spot tackle the guy. The other thing you have to do, you talk about getting pressure on the quarterback. When the ball comes out that quick, it's hard to get pressure when they come out that quick. But you can affect the throw. But the thing you cannot do, if you're able coverage-wise to make the throw not come out quick, then you've got to be able to cage rush this guy and not give him free access up the middle, and especially not free access outside to his throwing hand, where he hurt the Titans quite a bit, both with his legs and with his arms. So there are things that go into this. And then you already mentioned, you can't turn the ball over 4 times, especially in plus territory, and expect to beat a team that has gotten some things rolling offensively. You just can't do that. The first thing you can't do is you can't put yourself in a position not only to be playing your opponent, but to be playing basically yourself, trying to overcome turnovers.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Titans and Jaguars tomorrow, Saturday, 7:15, the kickoff right here on 104.5 The Zone and across the Titans Radio Network with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, Amy Wells, and the entire crew. Yeah, Mac, I mean, I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence's average time to throw last season, 2.87 seconds. It's among the worst in the league among qualified quarterbacks, and this year they've obviously done well to not, I mean, speed him up is the wrong term, but 2.56, that's a noticeable drop.
Oh yeah, well, and because I mean, look, let's just throw last year out of the books for him because I mean he had no chance last year because of the dysfunction that was going on, and we don't even know all the dysfunction that was going on. We saw it on the field. We weren't in the building, but clearly there was a lot of it because there were massive changes that were made. But for his rookie season, he had no development at all. This season, we're seeing what we all thought he was going to be, or really kind of knew he was going to be, you know, even vetting him during the draft. This is a franchise quarterback, and now he's playing like it.
So since last we talked, you obviously were kind enough to come in here after the Thursday night football game, and we talked about Josh Dobbs and his first career start and, you know, how well he performed relative to the circumstance that he was being dropped into the middle of. He's obviously earned the opportunity to go out there and do this again on Saturday night. What are you looking for from him based on what you have already seen on tape against this Jags defense?
Well, it's not just him. I mean, everybody else around him has got to perform too.
Sure.
You know, and that's the big thing. You know, he can only perform as well as everybody's performing around him, but he has to do his part. The first thing he has to do his part of is maintaining composure, you know, during the ball game. In other words, that's the one thing that he brings in his second start. Even though it's his second start in the National Football League, Buck, he's been in the league for 6 years, and he's had 6 years of quarterback room meetings, quarterback preparation to be the starter, because that's what all viable backups have to do in this league. And so he brings that. But look, we've got to be able to be, you're talking about offense. You have to be able to be balanced on offense. You know, you're going in there now knowing that you want to run the ball with Derrick Henry and you want to get that running. Last time, you know, he had 95 yards in the first quarter. Then your 4 turnovers made the run game not a part of the game. So you can't have that happen. What you want to do, but you need balance. And I thought what Josh Dobbs brought against Dallas, we didn't win the game, but at least he brought some downfield threat, you know, with the football. And that's important too. You're going to need balance on offense against this Jacksonville team because when they're on offense, they bring a lot of balance too. So you can't just be left-footed when you play these people on offense.
Coach Dave McGinnis at Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So, Mac, I guess for people who have not seen a ton of the Jags since Week 14, they've obviously been performing so. I think the word that you used is efficiently. They are so efficient right now. What stands out about the way that they've been able to attack teams since the last time the Titans have seen them? Because they're obviously averaging, you know, over 30 points a game.
They distribute the ball. I mean, you know, they distribute the ball everywhere. And what they've done is, Evan Ingram's a good example. Here's a guy that was a high pick, very talented player, had injury problems with the Giants. Clearly is healthy now, and they're distributing the football. You know, they brought Christian Kirk in there. They got Zay Jones in there now. Now they got Travis Etienne healthy, you know, that they drafted last year in the first round also with Trevor Lawrence, but they got him healthy. And the reason he was drafted number 1, even though a late number 1, he's a quality player that brings – they're distributing the football. They're not just leaning on one person. The person they lean on is the quarterback to distribute the football, and that's what he's been doing very, very efficiently to a multitude of targets.
So among, you know, the different conversations that are had this week, the amount of players that were rested against the Cowboys who will now try and give it a go and presumably in a little better health, still have to execute, obviously, just by nature of them being out on the field does not guarantee that it'll be a better team. But among the players on defense, Mac, that I consider to be particularly important, and I'm hoping you can articulate this in a smarter way than I can. But given that Andrew Adams is now done for the season, and we know what Lonnie Johnson obviously filled in for him in that game, and Josh Kalu has been getting snaps in certain sets throughout the course of the season. How big is Amani Hooker to have at this particular point, given what we know they already are going to be without?
Well, he's important because when he's in tandem back there with Kevin Byard, there's a lot that you can do, both in base and in sub defenses, because both of them have skills that complement one another. So there's a lot that you can do. When he's not in there, then Kevin Byard has to take on a different role, and then somebody else has to come in and take on a different role. And that's been the issue, is you've had a lot of somebody else's, during this season. I mean, last game with the situation that they were in, you know what it was. I mean, out of the 53 that Vrabel had to choose from to make 48 of them active, and he could only have 40. He only had enough for 47. 22 of them were on practice squads when the season started, either here or somewhere else. So when you got guys that were your dudes coming back, you had a plan. They had a plan defensively going in, until they started losing people. But you ask more specifically about Hooker, in tandem with Kevin Byard, he gives you a lot of options of things you can do, not only in sub defense but in base defenses too.
Coach Dave McGinnis, he'll be on the call with Mike Keith, Rhett Bryan, Amy Wells, the whole Titans radio crew in Jacksonville. They're getting ready to fly down today. Game tomorrow, 7:15 kickoff coverage here on 104.5 The Zone starting at 4 p.m. to get you ready for what is, in essence, a playoff game. Mack, enjoy it. I certainly look forward to listening to you guys during the game, and I'll see you in the booth on Saturday night.
Buck, travel safe down there. I'll see you in the booth, man. Thanks. See you.
That's the main man, Coach Dave McGinnis, with us on 104.5 The Zone. What'd you say to me in my ear?
Forgot to ask about TCU.
Oh, damn. Damn. I asked you.
Yeah.
This is your whole thing. Underfrogs. What happened? How did we let Coach Mack get off the TCU's playing in the national championship game? We're not going to talk to him until next Friday.
Yeah, it's a shame.
What a terrible job by us.
Yeah, by you, but yeah.
By me, Mother Bleeper, I asked you while I asked him about Amani Hooker. I said, what am I missing with Mack?
There's no proof of that.
I wish people could hear the conversations that you and I have, like, while the radio show is going on, like the things that we are saying to each other through the talkback. But that's, basically a different version of, the show that we do off the air is such a better show than the one we do on the air. I hate that. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation.
Should we call him back?
I mean,
I'm going to call him back.
No. This man has a flight. He has a flight in like an hour and a half. Leave him alone. Okay. That's our fault. Mack allots a certain amount of time for us every week, of which we are incredibly grateful. No, we cannot call him back because we screwed up. Shameful. So how they fluster Trevor Lawrence, though, I think is at the key of this thing, because Mack's right. The time to throw, as I mentioned with him, he brought up time to throw, but these are the numbers per Next Gen Stats. He was among the worst players in the league last season at getting rid of the football. This season, do you know? So 2.56 average time to throw. Do you know where that ranks him among qualified quarterbacks, of which there are? I mean, given that you said 66 have started the game so far this year, there are several. I would say there's about 40 here. But do you know where that ranks?
Say it again, the stat.
2.56 seconds of an average time to throw.
Between 1 and 40?
Let's say 1 and 40.
You said last season he was near the bottom?
He was among the worst in the league, 2.87.
0.87. And okay. I'm going to say it's around 30.
He's third.
What?
Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Tom Brady's getting rid of the ball this year, 2.46 seconds on average. Joe Burrow, 2.55. Trevor Lawrence, 2.56.
So what were those numbers looking like last year? How quickly were quarterbacks getting the ball out last year?
Last year,
Trevor Lawrence was among the worst in the league.
I mean, but you think about it, like a fraction of a second, like the best quarterback in football last year was Roethlisberger. Now, that doesn't mean that it's good, right? It's 2.38. Ben's just old and scared of being hit. So he's letting go of the ball as soon as the snap hits him.
A lot of the issues with Brady right now.
Yeah, but like think about this, okay? It was there's not as steep a jump this year as there was last year. Because Roethlisberger, I like crazy, 2.38. And then Brady's 2.5.
Last year or this year?
Last year.
Yeah. And then that's gone down for Brady.
That has gone slightly down for Brady.
That appears to be a lot of the gripes right now with the Tampa Bay offense is how quickly Tom Brady gets the ball out, which has always been one of the elite facets of his game, but they haven't been able to connect on deep balls. I mean, that connection with he and Mike Evans, which finally took off.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans was running wide open
Absolutely.
all over the place.
He had 200 yards and a hat trick of touchdowns. I mean, he has 6 touchdowns on the year. 3 of them came last weekend because it finally came to pass, the deep ball between Brady and Mike Evans. It hasn't been happening all season. A lot of it because of Tom Brady and the offensive line issues, just getting the ball out as quick as he possibly can.
So as I look at this and kind of circling back, like to fluster Lawrence is as important as anything humanly possible. To just generally bother him, if possible, because they were able to do that. Not at all, in essence, in Week 14. He is now, and Jimmy Wyatt had these stats, second-year quarterback. He's got 3,901 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 8 picks. He was 30 of 42 for 368, and 3 of those touchdowns a couple of weeks ago in Nashville. So now they'll have Jeff Simmons, they'll have Danico Autry. DeMarcus Walker is having a career year here, and I thought that would Teresa Walker. It made me laugh. Teresa Walker pointed out that her brother DeMarcus was having a career year in Nashville, and it just made me chuckle. And T.R. Tart obviously being a part of that front. They'll have involvement from Rashad Weaver and the outside linebackers, the edge guys as well. But just to hit, to disrupt, to match hands, right? Bat balls at the line of scrimmage. They are as equally good at using their length as they are at getting pressure. And that's something that will be a critical part of this game for them to be able to keep it close. Rick in Hendersonville is next. Hey, Rick.
Hey, guys, I'm going to take this a little bit in another direction. It does regard the championship game between TCU and Georgia. I am hoping that they just get rid of pregame and instead focus on outside the stadium watching Georgia fans take on the National Guard.
Did you see that the governor of Georgia weighed in on Twitter yesterday? Brian Kemp weighed in on Twitter, Lucas. Like this has become a fight now. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I'm just saying I think it would make great TV. I'm more interested in that, trying to see them stop tailgating.
You know what? I'm with you, Rick. I get rid of all the pregame coverage, scrap the ESPN, 75. Thank you for the call, buddy.
Don't care about whatever you're showing on the Jumbotron or whatever cool light show is going to happen at SoFi Stadium pregame. Yeah, put cameras in the parking lot.
It's akin to a Civil War reenactment out there between Georgia and the California National Guard.
That is a great call by Rick. The idea of the National Guard coming down to deal with barking Georgia fans who refuse to not tailgate the national championship game is a beautiful image.
How could they not anticipate this being a thing? Like, how could they not anticipate how stupid they were going to look? Whomever is making the decision about not allowing tailgating at SoFi.
What is that going to look like? Because parking passes, I think, were like $75 if you have a ticket.
And
that's
it?
And you
if you have a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But still, I'm surprised it's not more. But
no, I'm shocked.
That was just from the website when we read the no tailgating rule. But like, what are they going to do? Send like a stadium attendant down there? Hey, you can't be here, and then a chorus of 8 grown men start barking at them.
We talked about this yesterday. Yeah. It's going to be these poor people who are just there to work a game day, who are the event day staff at SoFi Stadium, just like at any other venue, concert, football, whatever the case may be around the country.
Many of whom don't know much, if at all, about SEC football.
No, and they're going to be hell, I think like Nissan Stadium, don't they bus people in from other places to work these things? Like, and I don't know the logistic. I don't want to speak ignorantly on that. I just see the giant buses as I'm leaving the press box at the end of the day where all the event workers are loading up, basically. So, Anyway, I don't want to get into this.
I want a mass standoff with helicopters hovering around the parking lots at SoFi Stadium because Georgia fans refuse to leave.
I mean, it's going to turn into a news story. There's going to be fights. Like, there are going to be fights. If they come out, what are they going to do? They're going to bring out the LAPD on horseback?
I hope so.
The riot squad with the I picture a bunch of human beings decked out in red, some with the bulldog face paint and like the shoulder pads with spikes that they wear, like the UGA mascot, on all fours, barking at cops on horseback. That's more interesting to me than the game at this point. 615-737-104. What a great call by Rick. Injury news from the Titans on Thursday. We'll address Traylon Burks and who Mike Vrabel ruled out coming up next. I am getting berated with text messages, people putting me in group messages with Coach Dave McGinnis, shaming me for forgetting to ask our own TCU alumni about his alma mater in the national championship game.
Many people are saying a fireable offense. Not me, but others.
I think you did that on purpose. I think when I got in your ear in the middle of that and said, "What am I missing with Mack?" and you said nothing. You didn't even say anything to me. You shrugged me off. You shook your head, and so we moved on. I think you did that on purpose. Many people are saying that.
Shame.
An egregious, some even would say fireable offense.
We'll talk to him next Friday when TCU are national champs.
That's a lot of confidence in your underfrogs.
No, I'm not calling that shot.
Do it, coward. No. You're gaslighting people. You're playing the frog noises that are back there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Stick with your underfrogs. You chicken bleep. Why not? Ohio State did a little bit of something to Georgia. I mean, TCU's not that. Like, they're not working with that kind of horsepower necessarily, but I didn't think they'd be able to do that to the Michigan offense on defense, so who's to say?
Yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of game Quentin Johnston has for TCU.
He is as interesting a draft prospect as any player in this game. And I think that obviously there's anytime you have a national championship game, there's going to be talent all over the field. But now people in the YouTube chat, Bryce is picking TCU to win 31-28. See, he's not scared.
I worry more about how TCU's defense will be able to handle Georgia's offense than I do the other way around. TCU offensively against that Georgia. I think TCU can score in this game.
The injuries for the Georgia defense, and we mentioned Jalen Carter with Mike Felder earlier in the show. Like, what's going on there? Does he have an injury that we don't know about? Because he looked unlike himself in that game against Ohio State, their All-American defensive tackle, of which they seem to have several every year. But meanwhile, I mentioned that the Titans had their final injury report that was put out yesterday, the designations for the game given out by Mike Vrabel, and guys that we were monitoring the situation for. Now, as you look at this, there is only one player for the Titans, which is, by the way, insane, given how much we've been talking about this season. There's only one player for the Titans that has been officially ruled out, and it's that defensive back that basically just got here. His name is Devontae Harris. He had a hamstring injury in the last game, I think at some point on special teams, and has been ruled out for this game. Questionable, basically not everybody who missed the Cowboys game, but questionable are Dylan Cole, Christian Fulton, Amani Hooker, and NPF. Those are four players who did miss the Cowboys game, who were arrested. Removed from the injury report entirely, Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, and Derrick Henry. Jeff was limited on Thursday, their final day of work on the field, but Danico Autry and Derrick Henry full go. They'll have defensive back Josh Thompson as well, who's missed a little bit of time with a concussion. But those four, Cole, Fulton, Hooker, and NPF, are questionable in addition to Treylon Burks. So Mike Vrabel said the Treylon Burks situation was precautionary. And, that definitely makes you feel better than them ruling him out. But he was limited on Wednesday and did not practice yesterday. So, obviously, that's a bit of a toss-up right now. His impact on a variety of different things in the offense is what I think. I think having Treylon Burks make big plays down the field, get yards after contact and after the catch, I just think that it allows so much for confidence in the quarterback, for confidence in the offense, the ability to distribute the ball better because you've got that threat down the field. And even if he's not down the field, you've got a threat who can make plays and get downfield once he's got the ball in his hands, which in a perfect world is what this thing was supposed to look like the whole time. If he can't go, and it, this is purely speculative at this point. I don't know whether whether he's going to be available to them or not. They're clearly trying to make sure that they're playing it safe with him. But if he can't go, I don't think it's the thing that makes I don't think it's the thing that makes or breaks them, but I think it's the thing that has the biggest impact on them being able to win this game. They have to have a playmaker downfield. And life gets so much easier when he's out there, not just for the passing game, but for Derrick Henry. I think that the pass catching group, the way that the ball was efficiently distributed last week by Dobbs, it's the kind of thing that Trevor Lawrence is having success with right now. Now, Dobbs doesn't qualify for time to throw yet. He hasn't had enough attempts, despite being one of the 66 quarterbacks that started this season. But behind this offensive line, the ball has to come out quickly. There has to be some threat down the field for Derrick Henry to just be able to find a little bit of breathing room and not have to earn every single yard after contact, the way that it basically has felt like all season long. I think the biggest thing in favor of Derrick Henry this season is how little Hassan Haskins was able to get accomplished behind. I mean, it was a worse offensive line for Hassan Haskins, which is not saying much because it's been a bad offensive line just generally for the Titans this year. But I thought the biggest, thing working in the favor of Derrick Henry was that he's been able to put up a 1,500-plus yard season dealing with the mess that's been in front of him and all the different penalty situations because he's had a lot of chunk plays wiped off the board. So what we're going to talk about in the final hour is what specifically went wrong in the first meeting. I thought Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, articulated this quite well. So you're going to hear a little bit of that audio, and we will set the scene for you about this last Titans-Jags game that took place in Week 14. The improbability of the Jags sweeping the Titans for the first time since what you said, Lucas, 2005?
Yeah.
Jags were a 12-win team at the time?
Yeah, Byron Leftwich started most of the games at quarterback that season for the Jags.
Now, citing historical stuff like that does not apply to this game. There's a variety of different things that we've brought up this year that have not happened in a considerable amount of time that happened all of a sudden. Like it's the second longest losing streak in the Titans era, 6 straight. It's tied for the second longest losing streak in the Titans era at this point, the 6 straight losses. We've never seen anything like this under Mike Vrabel, obviously. So any weakness can be exposed at any given point. But there's one thing that I think is less likely to happen in this game than happened in the first game, just by playing the probabilities. And I'm going to tell you what that is coming up next.
It is 11:59. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The season is on the line. The Tennessee Titans head to Jacksonville Saturday, a winner-take-all AFC South battle. Mike Vrabel only ruled out one player yesterday. It was cornerback Devontae Harris. He said wide receiver Traylon Burks should be good to go despite not practicing yesterday. Billy Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 4 p.m. Titans countdown is at 6, and kickoff between Titans and Jags at 7:15 with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. More good news on Bill safety Damar Hamlin from this morning. Per Ian Rappaport, Hamlin addressed his team via FaceTime. The breathing tube is out, and he is talking to family and teammates. Coming up tonight, the Nashville Predators will stay on the road. They're at the Washington Capitals, a 6 p.m. puck drop. Last night, a 5-3 win at the Hurricanes. UC Saros, a franchise record 64 saves on the night. And Tennessee basketball hits the road to South Carolina tomorrow. The 8th-ranked Vols at 13-2 will tip off Saturday at 2:30. Vanderbilt with an early tip-off tomorrow at 20th ranked Missouri, 11 a.m. for the 9-6 Commodores. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Made it to the final hour. Happy Friday to everybody. If you're just now hopping on with us, we're happy to have you here. Lucas, Robert, myself, we're with you for one more. For at least 2/3 of the show, heads down to Jacksonville and starts to cover this game. We haven't talked to Robert about his sideline experience against the Cowboys, by the way. Television's own Robert Walsh. I got so many screenshots.
Radio.
Well, but yeah, he made the television copy.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he got caught on camera. Yes.
Yeah. No, I got several screenshots, several tweets. I'm sure your parents were very proud of you.
I'm multifaceted.
You're multi-something.
Yeah, that's true. My mom was very proud of me, by the way. I sent her your picture of me on the sideline, and she said, I quote, "It looks like you've gained weight." Thanks, Mom. Thanks.
Not that night, baby. You were hustling. I saw you moving down there.
I was moving. I got chub rubbed so bad that day. Like, I just wore a bad pair of undies, man. And they're like,
no.
go to one sideline. And I'd like do my little shuffle over there.
Wait, what kind of underwear do you wear that's causing chafing?
Oh, no, it's not the underwear
You're
causing
an adult,
chafing.
for God's sakes.
I think they just rode up in the grundle area.
What is happening?
And they just gave me a little like. Can you hear that? My hands rubbing together?
Yes, I can hear that.
Together.
That's what it was.
It's his hands, not his thighs.
Yeah,
Everybody
I rebuke
relax.
that in the name of Jesus.
Thank you, Caleb Farley. Finally a meaningful contribution.
God.
That was, yeah, I know.
Hey, come on. Look, I've been saving this, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I think you need to give Caleb Farley a break because there's a guy in Baltimore. His name was Jimmy Smith. He was a first-round pick out of Colorado, and he sucked for 3 years. He was terrible. And then you'll remember him from the Super Bowl, 49ers Ravens.
Yeah, he won the Super Bowl.
Jim Harbaugh. Hold! He was holding, and he probably was holding. But
he was holding.
You can't go back and change it. Jimmy then turned around and became a franchise staple. So give the guy a break. Give him some time. Maybe the injury stuff will sort itself out. I'm not going to tie my name to him or anything, but I think
you literally just did.
Far too late.
Okay, all right. Caleb Farley's my guy.
Caleb Farley, Jimmy Smith, and Robert Walsh's chafing and underwear are now forever connected.
Are you going to send me back to the shadows or what?
Back to the shadows.
He invites it.
That was a further fall today. I hope he's okay after that one. You're gonna hear from Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, about what cannot go wrong in this game that went wrong in the first game here in just a second. But do have to remind you that the 2023 Nashville Boat Show is coming to the Music City Center January 5th through the 8th, and 104.5 The Zone has your chance to win tickets. To sign up, visit 1045thezone.com/contests today. Fun stuff. So this Titans-Jags game, we know what happened. We know what that Week 14 game started. They were already on a losing streak by the time they dropped the first one to the Jags. But by the the time that we have taken, or in the time that we have taken to now get to this point, the Titans are obviously riding a considerably worse streak of being turnover prone. We talked to Mike Keith about this yesterday. No, I'm sorry. Did we talk to Mike Keith Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday? I don't remember what day we talked to Mike. Either way, Mike Keith was on the show this week. Voice of the Titans. Go check out the podcast, and then you can figure out what day for yourself. But Mike Keith really set the tone for what it was that went wrong in the first one that can't happen tomorrow night.
You can't let that guy stand back there and throw for 368 yards and not be sacked. You can't do it. It just can't happen. I mean, if he's going to be able to pick and choose with the receivers that he has, and with the fact that you have to defend ETN, that's just not going to work. So they've got to get pressure on him. They've got to get the ball back for the offense. That's the thing about the whole turnover part that is not discussed enough. It's like, yeah, the 4 turnovers. Well, 2 of them were major scoring opportunities that you gave away. But the bigger part of it is that you give another offense more possession.
Yeah.
You give them more chances. So not only does the offense have to take care of the ball, the defense has to get the ball back for the offense. And I think it's a massive factor in this game. I also think the Fulton and Hooker factors in the secondary may end up being a massive factor.
Well, they certainly could do with limiting some of these explosive plays that are costing them opportunities to win games.
But here's the thing. In the first game, if you look at the game book again, the Titans had more explosive plays. What killed them in the game was the turnovers and the fact that Jacksonville got so many plays.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Jacksonville's longest play in the game was 27 yards. Now they certainly had, I think they had 5 plays of over 20, but I mean, they didn't have 75-yard touchdowns or 50-yard runs or whatever. The Titans died the death of 1,000 cuts to a certain extent because they kept giving the ball back and they could get no pressure on Trevor Lawrence.
That's the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. Now, Mike was off by 2 yards, the longest play from scrimmage that counted anyway. I don't know if there was a 27-yarder that got wiped off the board by penalty, but the longest play from scrimmage for Jacksonville was a 25-yard completion. Trevor Lawrence to Evan Ingram with Kevin Byard in coverage on a 2nd and 7 in the second quarter. So the turnovers is the thing that he just basically laid out all of the things, right? But the turnovers is the thing that killed them. And you heard from Tony Dews. We played the running backs coach for the Titans. We played that audio for you yesterday and the things that they've been working on with Derek to keep that from happening. And obviously, there was a couple of different miscues in this game that had Derek lose 2 fumbles in a big spot, but also, contributed to the turnover situations and the additional possessions that the Jags ended up having. So I'm going to pull up the possession chart from this Week 14 game just to see how many more possessions Jacksonville had than the Titans. Now this is interesting. So Lucas, if you had to guess, knowing that the Titans turned the ball over 4 times, or either of you, whichever. I don't know if Robert's still in the shadows or not. It was a pretty far.
It was.
Far fall. Dyslexic. If I told you that the Titans turned the ball over 4 times and lost by double digits to the Jags, how many more possessions would you say Jacksonville got than Tennessee?
Ooh, and the Jags did not turn it over, correct?
The Jags did not turn it over, correct.
4-0 turnover differential.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say Jacksonville because they got the double dip. They received the third quarter kickoff after scoring at the end of the second. I'll say they got 5 extra possessions.
They were even.
What?
They both had 12 possessions apiece.
Wow.
Now think about that.
How does that work out?
Well, the Titans started the game in, decent fashion. They had touchdown, fumble, touchdown, right? So they're prolonging possessions, and they had drives that went, 10 plays, 13 plays.
They were running the ball at will.
They were running the ball at will. Derek had 96 yards in the first half.
Which is in the first quarter. which he has never done in his career.
It was in the first quarter?
He had 96 yards in the first quarter
Why
of
am I
that
forgetting
game.
that? And what did he finish with in the first half? I'll have to go back and look.
He finished with 120, 121 yards, but it's not the most yards he's ever had in a single quarter because obviously he has the 99-yard touchdown on his resume, but it is the most he's ever had in a first quarter, 96 yards.
That's wild. Okay. So, yes, they were even as far as possessions. They got 12 possessions apiece. Now, think about how different that feels if you don't turn the ball over 4 times. You limit possessions with a defense that can't get to the quarterback.
So you would have 12 possessions to their 8.
It's crazy.
And how many points off turnovers? I mean, that's
20.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, that's the game.
20. That's the thing that I don't think is necessarily going to be repeatable. And if it is, you're banged. There's nothing there. They had 36 total points, the Jags did. 20 of them came off of turnovers.
Yeah, but the onus is on the defense just as much to take the ball away.
Yeah, well, and the inability to impact the quarterback, the inability to, he had a couple, I think, I think Jeff got his hand on 1 or 2 in that game.
And no Danico Autry in that game.
That's correct. But Jeff did have moments where he was impactful, but not enough at that point, obviously. As far as passes defensed, Weaver had 2. Jeff had 2. So they were matching hands relatively well. Hooker had 1 and Andrew Adams had 1. So they were trying to make plays, but I think the fact that your defensive line had more passes defense than your secondary did that day, like by double. Not a situation that is ideal. There's a lot of different elements. Of this game. We'll focus in on Derrick Henry coming up next. And the idea that in Week 18, there's a lot of NFL coaches, obviously head coaches, but coordinators as well, as we, bring things back locally, that are coaching for their jobs in the final week of the season. That's something I also think is an interesting element to look at for this particular game and a couple other situations around the NFL. We'll get into those coming up next. So we got a couple of news items here. First and foremost, we opened the show with the playoff resolution that was being proposed by the NFL to ownership, that ownership had to vote on in a special league meeting regarding the Bills and Bengals not resuming that game that Damar Hamlin suffered the cardiac arrest during. Damar Hamlin, by the way, for those of you who missed it at the start of the show, has had a FaceTime with his teammates. He has had his breathing tube removed. His cognitive function, according to his medical evaluation team, is intact. So, I mean, horrifying circumstance where a guy literally, based on the reporting, died twice on the field and had to have his heart pumped for him for the 9 minutes that he was receiving CPR and AED. Miraculous recovery at this point. So thank God for that. But the whole situation that has resulted from that game not resuming, not being played at this point, is now the possibility of a neutral site AFC Championship game that's been approved by the ownership, and a literal coin flip, to take place or to determine where a Ravens-Bengals wildcard game would take place, depending on what happens in Week 18. Now, what happens in Week 18 for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson's just been ruled out. And John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Ravens, is saying that he is hopeful that Lamar will be able to be available in the next week. But obviously the Lamar situation is fascinating. The scenarios, NFL research has official scenarios for a neutral site, if a neutral site AFC Championship game were to occur. It would take Kansas City winning against Vegas this weekend, Buffalo winning at New England, and Baltimore winning at Cincinnati for there to be a neutral site Buffalo versus Kansas City AFC Championship game. Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati winning would also lead to a neutral site AFC Championship game. Las Vegas, New England, and Baltimore winning would lead to an AFC Championship game neutral site between Buffalo and Kansas City. Las Vegas, New England, and Cincinnati winning would also lead to an AFC Championship game neutral site game being played between Kansas City and Buffalo, or Cincinnati and Kansas City, depending on which iteration of those two teams ended up in the championship game. So those are all the scenarios. Now, no locations have been discussed, which I assume had to come up in the ownership in the special league meeting. That information has not been disseminated yet. So we'll keep an eye on that for you throughout the course of while we're on the air today. And if more news comes available, obviously, Blaine and Mickey and 3HL we'll discuss as well. Meantime, we're talking Titans and Jags, turnovers, extra possessions for Jacksonville, all the different things that went wrong in Week 14 that cannot go wrong in this AFC Championship game finale, with all the stakes that comes with and all the excitement. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. DJ calling us from the Borough. What's up, DJ?
Hey, man. I was just calling to say, I mean, whether you have 5, 6, 7 turnovers, you have the ball to turn it over. So whether you get a touchdown or a turnover or whatever, you're never going to end up with 5 or 6 more possessions than the other team. It's always going to be pretty close unless you end the game, having the ball. You might have 1 or 2 possessions, but it's never going to be 5 or 6.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a larger number. But I think given 4 turnovers, I think you would have been surprised to see that they would have pulled even. Yeah, they're always close. You are correct in saying that, DJ, and thank you for pointing that out. But as you look at the Titans at this point, Derrick Henry, even in that loss, was very much en route to owning the Jags again. Right, 17 attempts, 121 yards. By far and away, his best yards per carry average this season of 7.1 and the touchdown. Derrick is the thing that still, no matter how down bad the rest of the Titans roster is, Derrick is still the thing that gives the Titans the best chance against this particular defense. Now, I don't know why that is, because they've had changes in personnel over the years, and it's not like they don't know Derrick Henry's coming at this point. But I think that the circumstances do you think it's just in their heads? I don't know how that could be because it's been so many different iterations of the Jags. Like they've been terrible for a long time. There's all kind of roster turnover, and they're a very, very young team. Because like Trevor Lawrence doesn't seem bothered by Titans Jags. He's not been in the league long enough to be bothered by Titans Jags. It's like there's that No Context Titans account on Twitter. For those of you who are not on Twitter, understandably so, there's an account just called No Context Titans that just posts random moments in Titans history and, Titans recency and all these different things. But they posted a screenshot of the NFL Network like record predictions for the game coming up between the Titans and the Jags. And the only person to pick the Titans, do you know who it was of the NFL Network staff? Did you see this?
Oh, I saw this. It was Maurice Jones-Drew.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, who probably has PTSD.
He's seen that take place way too many times. MJD is the only one looking around at the Titans and Jags and be like, I don't know. I've seen this. I know how this goes. They're still the Jags at the end of the day, even if you're a former Jags player. That's why Fred Taylor hates him so damn much. He still harbors a lot of hate in his heart for this particular franchise. Alex Blaine Mans on Facebook Live just wrote, I'm voting Derrick Henry for Speaker of the House. He'll have to see if he's got enough votes to keep McCarthy out of the seat at this point. Too funny. But as you look at Derrick Henry and the work that they were able to get done, that's why you felt confident in that game despite the amount of defensive talent that you were down at the time because Derrick was still having success. Now things spiraled, right? The turnovers that happened. As you look at the possession chart for Tennessee versus Jacksonville, it reads like this: touchdown, fumble, which led to Jacksonville's first touchdown. Touchdown, interception, punt, fumble, punt, fumble, touchdown, turnover on downs. So they started fine, and we've talked about second half woes before for this team, but this was different, right? This was not an inability to sustain drives. This was them flat ending drives on their own in ways that were uncharacteristic and really started this streak of 4 Derrick Henry fumbles in the last 5 games. Not ideal. But you look at the way that Derrick Henry is still able to attack this defense. It's why the score separation or lack thereof in an ideal world is so important because it keeps Derrick in the game. If you allow Jacksonville to have the moment like they did where they score going into half, they come out with the ball in the second half, they go on a substantial touchdown drive to open the second half. In fact, as I look at this, they came out in the third quarter, went on a 12-play, 79-yard drive, had a 7 yards lost due to penalty, but scored a touchdown and created a 2-score separation against Tennessee. And then Titans still came out running the ball and just let it get away from them.
And
right?
Didn't a kick return for a touchdown get called back to open the third quarter?
Is that right? I think that's right.
Were you not back from getting your chicken tenders yet?
I was still in the media lounge.
Do you want to hear Derrick Henry's career stats against the Jags?
They can't be worse than the Texans, so sure.
It's definitely not that. It's not, an average of 200 yards per game, but in 12 career games against Jacksonville, Derrick Henry has 230 carries, 1,264 yards. He has scored 16 touchdowns in those 12 games.
It's egregious. Derrick Henry is the Jags killer, but can he be again? He was recently, and they still lost by double digits. So
5.5 yards per carry, 105 yards per game.
They have, if anything is going to get corrected in this game, Derrick cannot turn the ball. They cannot turn the ball over. Derrick cannot turn the ball over. Is there an extra A on here on purpose?
This is Patrika in Smyrna.
Patrika is in Smyrna calling us next. What's up?
Good afternoon, guys. I just want to know what your thoughts are. 2 things. On social media, a lot of people are saying that we should lose on purpose tomorrow just so we can get a higher draft pick. And in my opinion, I just think that's insane because, as you know, the draft has failed us sometimes. I remember when we drafted Jake Locker. I mean, it didn't really get us to a Super Bowl. So I just feel like, saying, yeah, we should lose so we can get a better draft pick is it's not right. And I think we should do everything we can to win. And also, a lot of people are upset that Malik is not starting. And I feel like Dobbs proved himself in one game as to why he should get the start. So I'll hang up now and listen, but wanted to get you guys' opinion on saying we should lose on purpose tomorrow.
Sure. So I believe we opened this week with it, Patrica, on Tuesday, which was my first day back. Lucas was hosting for me on Monday. And, I've made my position on this known, but, I get that not everybody listens to the radio show all 3 hours every day. And if you do, God help you, you're spending too much time with us, but we're grateful for you. My position on people who have expressed an interest in the Titans losing this game for the purposes of a draft pick, I don't think that those people are losers. That's too personal. That's a personal attack. It is a loser mentality if you are someone who thinks that way. The fact that there would be, and I understand, it's a tough time to keep interest in a football team that seems dead on arrival. Losers of 6 straight. I sympathize. I'm there every game, all 4 quarters, for about 12 hours of my day.
Except when you're eating chicken tenders.
Well, you miss something every once in a while.
The halftime is extraordinarily quick.
Yeah, now that you're not like chilling on your couch and now that you're like at working a game, it goes fast.
It is like bathroom, grab some food, and then oh my God, it's like midway through the third quarter.
It's all I can do to make it to the media lounge to get my lunch before the 12-minute halftime is over. The idea, and it's not a majority, right? And this is why it's why I love reminding myself, because I have to do it to myself every once in a while, and you guys, that social media is not reality, thank God. But there's not a majority of people who are out here jockeying for this, right? Most people, most reasonable, rational Titans fans want to see their football team win a game, want to see their football team go to the playoffs, want to, if not attend a home playoff game, have a home playoff game here in Nashville, whether they go far in the playoffs or whether they're one and done again. If you are somebody who it takes the postseason for granted, especially to have a higher draft pick, the thing that is literally the least uncertain of anything in professional sports, the draft, the thing that just got your general manager fired. I'm looking at the amount of top 10 draft picks that the Titans have had. Let's just say let's start with the 2013 draft, okay? Chance Warmack is a top 10 pick. Marcus Mariota is a top 10 pick. Jack Conklin, Corey Davis, top 10 picks. You have to go back further to 2011. Jake Locker was a top 10 pick. He was the 8th overall pick in the draft. How's it? If you land the guy that turns out to be Jake Locker, you're going to be more pissed then than you are now. Now, there's no certainty. There's no guarantee to any of this. But, people are operating with a degree of certainty about the NFL draft, it is the dumbest thing I think I've ever had expressed to me. And so I think that now that there's some guys who are outside of the top 10 that have done well, right? Lawan is the 11th overall pick. Corey Davis is a productive NFL player. Jack Conklin is a productive NFL player. Jeff Simmons was 19th overall because he had an ACL and some high school baggage.
Yeah, but that's like not even the point. Like the point is that the first round pick obviously is important, but relative to everything it takes to retool and change the direction of a franchise is a much smaller percentage than when you put together what they need to do in free agency and making decisions with the roster in its current state and what they do in the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth round. It is more and more idiotic to me the more this gets brought up, the idea of losing for a better draft position. And ultimately, what are we talking about here? Like a top 12 pick versus a top 19 pick?
There's a scenario where they could get into the top 10.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know. But that's the kind of thing that people are doing in their spare time on the internet. There's a football game tomorrow, for God's sakes. And you, like, because now there's a hashtag that's been going on in our YouTube chat and among, other places on social media. Trust the tank. Trust what? You don't even know who your bleeping general manager is going to be. Trust the tank. Who are you trusting? This imaginary figure in your head that you think is going to be the savior of your franchise in 3 months or whatever? Guys, and I know I'm not talking to the majority of you. Most of you are probably like, shut up. I've heard you say this before, you dope. But we simply respond to Patrika's question. And like I said, she may not have heard us teeing off on that on Tuesday morning. But I have zero interest in starting my postseason or my offseason early. And I have zero investment in this other than this is what it is to do my job. I want to come in on Monday and talk about a football game, not a list of names from some draft guide that you guys want to talk about, because we're going to talk about for the next 6 bleeping months of the NFL draft. Almost. Less than 6 months. My math is bad. You get the point. Is it Ethan on line 1? Oh, sorry, Lucas is on the phone, scrambling for phone calls. I'll get back to the phone here in just a second. Yes, Ethan and Dixon is up first. Hey, Ethan.
Hey, man. Hey, I just had a quick input. I just wanted to say, a lot of people are talking about this higher draft pick, but in reality, if you look back a few years, we had a chance to draft Mahomes, and we took Corey Davis, I think, a few picks before Mahomes. So all these Titans fans that think just because you get a higher pick that's going to end up in a better outcome, that is completely wrong. And I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, man. I mean, Ethan, you said it, right? Like, it's you don't know what this thing is going to pan out. Mitch Trubisky was the 2nd overall pick in that draft. 2nd. And people are tight about Malik Willis as a 3rd-round draft pick at the quarterback position. The first-rounders don't pan out. There's been 2 draft classes in the last 5 years where there have been 5 first-round quarterbacks. The draft with Baker and Allen and Lamar and Josh Rosen. Who's the 5th one that I'm forgetting?
Oh, Paxton Lynch?
No.
Are you just talking about first-round quarterback?
First-round quarterback. Paxton Lynch was not in that draft.
Was he not?
No. Baker Mayfield, 1st overall. Josh Allen, I think, was later. Darnold. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, I think it went Darnold, Allen.
Oh, yeah, Lynch was 16.
But he was in that draft?
No, Lynch was 2016.
Oh,
draft.
okay, yeah. I thought that was earlier. Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch was a first-round pick. Guys. History is littered with awful first-round draft picks. I'm watching Zach Wilson sit behind Joe Flacco in Week 18 as the 2nd overall pick. I'm not saying that those guys can't go on to have productive NFL careers, but like the fact that that there is a thought process out there that is somehow going to fix everything that's wrong with you.
And what would have to happen to get a top 10 pick other than losing to Jacksonville?
There would have to be a variety of different things. I don't have all the different scenarios
it's like
in front
a crazy
of me.
playoff scenario. Like, okay, we have to beat this team and hope X, Y, and Z lose. That's what you're talking about here. It's so nonsensical.
Hey, you know who was a first-round draft pick at the quarterback position? The guy you're actively trying to get rid of, Ryan Tannehill. I don't like to insult people personally, but the level of intelligence that it takes to have that be the thought process is some of the dumbest stuff that is uttered in the history of the internet, and the internet is an exceedingly dumb place. Derek and Smyrna is next. Hey, Derek.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great, boss.
Okay, hey, but you can't insult them, but I'm going to insult them myself because you're in a professional setting. They is dumb as HE-double hockey sticks. Because we got a chance to beat Jacksonville, and if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll play Baltimore first. Is that right?
As it stands, you would play the Chargers.
Okay. Either one of them, I think, is a better option than, the Bills, Chiefs, and the Bengals.
Yes.
So we got a chance to beat them, go into the 2nd round, and with the motivation, a little spark with Dobbs and our defense, we got a chance to even make it back to the AFC. Y'all talking about losing just to take a draft pick, like them fans shouldn't have no platform. They should be able to call the radio. They should be able to talk about NFL at all because it's just pathetic. And I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Thanks, Derek. Like I said, I don't want to get into reruns. We've done it's done to tank. If you're in line for the playoffs in week 18, it's dumb to tank. Like if you're the Colts in the suck for luck year and you're out there with Curtis Painter, okay, baby, I'm with you. Let's ride. Literally. The Broncos, if they chose to tank with Russell Wilson on the roster, literally, let's ride.
Bears fans and Texas fans are the ones they need to be rooting to lose, not Titans fans.
The Texans fans should have been pissed that they beat the Titans for their second win of the year because at the time it jeopardized potentially the first overall pick. Those are the teams. You want to be the Bears? You want to be the Texans? You want to be look around at the teams who pick at the top. You're not dysfunctional anymore. You used to be. How quickly we forget.
I feel like we're on the same page on this at this point.
At this point. So let's lighten up. Let's see if we can't add a little music to this. Let's see if Cheeseburger can't throw us into, I'm sure there's a rap being prepared at this very moment. Hello, Cheeseburger.
What's going on, Buck Rising? How y'all doing today?
Great, buddy. I hope you are too.
Hey, shout out to the Florida State Seminoles, Cheeseburger. 10
yeah,
wins.
Hey, Florida State Seminoles.
Let's go Noles, baby. Go Noles, baby. The Cheese Bowl champions. Yeah. It's a Buck Rising all day, every day. Yeah. Buck Rising show. Buck the Cheeseburger on the radio all day, every day, including Luke Van Zika, our homeboy. Yeah. Let's go, baby. Tighten up. Hey, I think Titans, we're going to do all we can to beat Jacksonville tomorrow night, man. Prime time. Can't get no better than that, baby, for the AFC South. Hey, they're going to leave it all on the line tomorrow night, baby. Hey, it's go, baby. It's like a playoff game. Let's go. Let's get in that tournament, and let's do some games in that tournament. Come on, Titans fans. Let's go. Let's get behind this team. Let's go. Tighten up, baby. Let's go. Tighten up, baby. All day, every day. Yeah, you got the Titans defense. Yeah. Let's go, Buck. I want to see you, Buck. I want to see you tomorrow night, Buck, with the shirt off, chest painted. Yeah, Buck. Let's go. Yeah.
Are we ending with boogie shoes every Friday now? Did we decide on that since we can't do Kanye anymore?
No more Kanye.
Well, since we won't do Kanye, not since we can't do Kanye anymore. No more Kanye, kids. Do you see Adidas has billions of dollars of Yeezys just stashed in a warehouse somewhere?
No one wants them.
I sure as hell not. Boogie shoes works, though. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. I'm heading down to Jacksonville in just a little bit. Lucas will join me tomorrow morning. Somebody asked me why we don't travel together. If there's additional tension, friction within the ranks as you actively jockey to get me fired.
Very much so.
People think it's real. I mean, there's always a degree of truth.
We're like the
always a degree of
Mythbusters.
truth in there.
We're like the Mythbusters, Put on a show every day, put on a face, but, I just hate each other.
Oh, wait, the Mythbusters hated each
You
other?
didn't know that?
No.
Oh, they never spent any time together outside
I
of
love
the show.
that show.
Yeah, they hated each other.
The dude with the walrus mustache went to Indiana.
No, oh, did he really?
Yeah.
No, that is a known fact that they had a great disdain for one another.
Oh, my God, that's heartbreaking. Don't meet your heroes, kids. Let's go to AJ in Nashville next. Hey, AJ.
Hey, Buck, how's it going?
Good, boss.
Hey, Colin, love the show. You guys do a great job. You're spot on about that loser mentality. My question was, do you think we're a better team with Dobbs than Tannehill? And also, do you think Dobbs gives us a better chance to win a playoff game versus Tannehill?
Thank you for the call, AJ. The answer in short is no. I don't think that Josh Dobbs gives them a better chance to win a playoff game than Tannehill. Now, I will say that Tannehill is clearly, they shut him down for the season. Like, he was clearly in significantly worse shape than we have ever seen him be because the offensive line is in tatters, and Dobbs is healthy, right? Dobbs doesn't have any problems right now. And now he might after continuing to play behind that offensive line, however much longer this thing goes. But there's no question to me that Ryan Tannehill gives them the best chance if everything is even. Now, things aren't even right now. And the offense did look better with Dobbs in the lineup with a bunch of scrubs than it has with Tannehill in some time. That's not lost on me, but I would say don't operate with recency bias. And, this guy, Tannehill literally presided over the most effective Titans offense in the era of Titans football, in the last 25 years of Titans football. That's 2 years ago. We're not that far removed from that at all. And he's taken a significant beating since then. Good for context, though. Jake in Nashville next. Hey, Jake.
Yes, sir. The question on the draft, if the Titans make it to the playoffs, doesn't the team make a lot more money?
Yes.
And in the draft, can't they can buy their way up in the draft, correct? Like you can trade a second-round pick or 3 second-round picks for a first-round, on up in the order a lot higher. Haven't we seen that a lot in the past?
Yeah, Jake, you can always trade up in the draft. Now, how much of your future are you willing to mortgage? And, how many bites of the apple do you want? How many bites of the randomness apple that is the draft do you want? Because draft capital, I think, is preferable over mortgaging several picks to make one pick.
Yeah, but I think what he was talking about was that directly correlating with the revenue that comes in from hosting a playoff game, which would not be related.
I don't think that's not what I took him to mean, but obviously that's not true. Yes, for your franchise, it is hugely beneficial for you to host home playoff games financially. There is so much money to be made there. Now, that doesn't matter to you, and it doesn't necessarily translate immediately to things on the field, but you are a better organization. Now, so think about it this way. If hosting a home playoff game, this is going to really bleep people's minds. If hosting a home playoff game means that you have additional revenue, and the additional revenue that you make, maybe in part from the playoff game, maybe from merchandise sales, whatever the case may be, if you have an additional revenue and you spend that additional revenue on a larger strength and conditioning staff, more resources to be allocated to the recovery of players, things that have been big-time criticisms of this franchise, rightly or wrongly, that, there's a degree of randomness to the injury, but there's no question that they have trouble keeping guys healthy. if you, and I'm not saying that there's a direct one-to-one correlation, but like think about it within that context. If you make more money, you have more money to spend on the football team. If you have more money, more resources to spend on the football team, you're going to give yourself a better chance to be a better football team. It's not that hard. Tyler, on his way to Jacksonville, up next. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, bud. I was just wondering, do you think the rumors of firing Todd Downing this offseason is going to affect his play calling this weekend or no?
Well, okay, so what rumors are you talking about, Tyler? Because I haven't seen anybody credible talking about that whatsoever.
I've had a couple of Instagram sources I follow that said that there was rumors of firing Todd Downing in the offseason, which is not like it's Instagram, but
No, wait. Instagram messages about other rumors? Like secondhand Instagram rumors?
No, it's sources that I keep up with that keep up with the player injuries and stuff that happens around the organization.
Okay. Yeah, I don't care about that right now. I mean, is it Todd Downing got arrested or got a DUI and was talking about death threats a month and a half ago. Okay, according to the affidavit. Like the firing stuff is going to shake him up even worse? No, this guy's gone through absolute and listen, the DUI, I'm not excusing it whatsoever. That's absolutely a self-inflicted situation. And, I don't think under any circumstances people should be receiving death threats, obviously. But, affect his play calling. That's like when somebody brings up dropping a player that's Odell Beckham Jr. Dropping Odell Beckham Jr. into the Titans locker room and saying, but what if he affects the locker room negatively? Well, if your locker room is so mentally weak that you're worried about one player completely shaking the foundation of the franchise, then what are you even doing? Let's do some polls. Oh, wait. UC Saros. There haven't been a ton, although the hockey team playing much better as of late.
They're scoring.
They're scoring at will, it would seem to me.
4 or more goals in each of the last 4 games. Last night, a 5-3 win at the Hurricanes.
So let me not neglect what was not just a Predators historical moment, but an NHL historical moment. UC Saros was absolutely unbelievable. He made 20 more saves in that game last night. 64 saves than Pecorine made in the Preds triple overtime game back in 2016. 44. That's courtesy of Alex Doherty, my colleague at A to Z Sports.
So it's the second most saves in a win in NHL history.
The Hurricanes had 26 shots in the final period. The Predators had 24 shots all game.
Yeah, they're playing again tonight. They're at the Caps.
Good on UC. That's badass. Give me some polls.
I don't know who you are, but I know what it's time for. A poll update on the Buck Rising Show. Here's a young man with a very particular set of skills. With the final numbers, here's Buck Rising Show correspondent and producer, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. Did the NFL get it right with the seating adjustments in the AFC, which, by the way, have been all approved by the owners? 53% say yes.
They certainly seem to think so, and, there was no perfect solution, but they found the most equitable solution humanly possible given the circumstances, and more importantly than them figuring out the playoffs, Damar Hamlin is in better condition, still being monitored, but making substantial progress, thankfully.
Hobie says, I don't even know which way is up. I imagine a lot of people are a little confused by it. Like, if the Ravens win this weekend, Lamar is out. By the way, Tyler Huntley's status is in question right now. And if the Chargers win this weekend, and if the Ravens win a coin toss, they will host a playoff game.
I'm in a group text with some buddies that were asking me about what all this meant for the playoffs. I just sent them the league memo. They didn't even respond. It was just like, this stuff is going to be bleeping nuts. Like, it's just, there's a lot of detail there and a lot of different scenarios. And I think people are just like, tell me what time the game is.
Yeah, it's pretty convoluted.
You want to talk about stress? You want to talk about stress? Okay? I've stumbled onto a major company conspiracy, Mack. How about that for stress?
It's the Charlie Kelly conspiracy meme.
Pepe Sylvia.
Would you go to a neutral site AFC championship game in Nashville that the Titans are not playing in? 53% say no.
Hell yes. What? Why not? Maybe I don't know what the cost of something like that is, and obviously, like I would get credentialed, and I wouldn't pay for that. But, all right, so let me not speak from my perspective because I'm not paying for these.
Yeah, just stop talking.
Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
Which NFL head coach is coaching for his job this weekend? Kenneth says, seems like crazy talk, but credible reports, Mike McDaniel could be one. So Armando Salguero, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly,
Yeah, you got it.
NFL reporter of Outkick, saying that Mike McDaniel, if the Dolphins lose and miss the playoffs, could potentially be at risk.
Oh, like hell.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Listen, Armando's been around for a long, long time. He was at the Miami Herald forever. He's hugely credible. But, this was a Coach of the Year candidate before Tua got concussed. Let's not. But also, their owner is kind of
Stephen
erratic.
Ross.
Yeah.
Dwayne
erratic.
says Ron Rivera for not knowing that you need to win to get into the playoffs. QB Film Room says Mike Tomlin, which I think is utterly absurd.
Well,
the coaching job he has done this year is fantastic.
They're in an offensive coordinator situation that has them in absolute hell. Matt Canada is the Todd Downing North.
Yeah.
At this point.
I wonder if Jeff Saturday is one of those guys.
God, if Jeff Saturday keeps his job. And it's not like I harbor no ill will for Jeff Saturday, but just nonsense.
What is the appropriate icing to cookie ratio on a cookie cake? Travis says the correct answer is no icing. Darren says all cookie, no icing. Lindsay says must be homemade, not out of the tube, and even then, a light scraping. Most of the adults in the room agree that too much icing is not good.
Although V-Love sent us some not safe for work pictures of icing cake.
V-Love loves icing.
V-Love loves icing. Now, that kind of icing I'm down for, except for that red velvet cupcake that looked like it'd make my stomach sick.
Those are the Bulls.
All right, very good. That's the show. I'm back on the air tomorrow. Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. I'll be live in Jacksonville. Blaine and Mickey will be in the studio. They will also keep you informed, entertained, and engaged because they're next.